But you can see I'm out in southern Alberta here. It's a beautiful day. This is our farm. Kind of a little spin look around what we got going on. Got a bunch of tractors over here that we use for a lot of our farming. We have a bunch of trucks and trailers, different things. Can you hear me okay, Seth?
Yep, you sound good.
Okay. Anyway, so I have my tub set up in my office here. So we're going to walk inside here and we're going to kind of go over what we do here. I did this last year, so I'm very excited to be back. I'm glad that Seth asked me to come back so that me too. Hopefully, I can do a good job. We will try to do our best here. I've been farming in Tabor for about 27 years. We started growing potatoes probably about 15 years ago. And so our family farm has been in this area for probably about, I don't know, I think I'm fifth generation farmer in the Tabor area. So we've been here a long time. My son is on the farm and he's like going to be sixth generation. So we've been doing this a very long time. Potatoes not so long. It's kind of newer to us, but we love it. It's fun, and hopefully you guys are going to love the program. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how your potatoes turn out. Anyways, I kind of pre-set up my stuff here because we want to make sure there's time for questions if you guys have any. So what I did here is I filled up my tub. I've got about it's about that full to the line here. That's where we kind of want it, of dirt, topsoil. And so I'm going to get my buddy here to kind of take my phone. I'll flip it around here. I'm going to kind of make sure I can know what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. So the handoff is complete. So what we have here is we got a bunch of potatoes, we got our seed, we got fertilizer, we got our tub, and we have some dirt. So what I'm going to do here, because now that we have the dirt in place, we want to put some fertilizer in here. So we're going to take the spoon here, and I'm going to put approximately, I don't know, 3 to 4 spoonfuls of fertilizer into my pot. And this is going to be really good because that's what the potato likes to grow. It needs fertilizer. And so when you guys are getting your potatoes, you should leave them out for a little bit until they got nice little sprouts on them like these do. So you can see they're nicely sprouted. When we grow our potatoes on the farm, we like to see just little sprouts like that when we're going to plant. That's just perfect. These are a little bit bigger, which is okay for doing what we're doing. But if we're on the farm, we'd want really small ones just like that. But if we're in the tubs, this is perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my spoon. I'm going to kind of mix this fertilizer in. Kind of want to blend it into the pot as much as we can here. This is beautiful topsoil. It's nice and got some good moisture in it right now, which is going to be perfect for the potato. Potatoes like water. Not too much water, but enough water that it makes sense that they're going to use it. So once we kind of have our fertilizer kind of mixed in there like that, then we're going to take our potatoes and we're going to kind of plant them. So typically in a field, when we're planting potatoes, we want those potatoes to be between 5.5 to 6 inches deep, sometimes even deeper, depending on the weather conditions. If it's going to be a cold snap or some really bad weather, we might even go up to 7 inches deep. But for this purpose, because we know that these are going to be inside, maybe outside when the weather gets better out or whatever, that we're going to kind of not go quite as deep. So we're going to kind of dig it down here. We're going to put that one in there. We're going to bury it. And you kind of want to spread your seed pieces out. So you kind of get a nice little area here where they're kind of spread out. So now our potatoes are essentially, they are planted. Perfect conditions. There's nice, moist dirt here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more topsoil because I want to fill this up. Because we're not very deep yet. We kind of want to get us. So my potatoes are probably about 5 to 6 inches deep at this point. I would recommend this topsoil that I'm using today has a lot of moisture already in it. You definitely want to probably put some moist, like some water into your dirt if it's dry. But because this dirt in our particular one, see how it's kind of really sticky? It's got quite a bit of moisture already in there, which is plenty enough for my potato to germinate. And that's the key. Um, but you get a couple jugs and fill up, put some water in there. Potatoes do like moisture. They need so much. You don't want to overwater them, but you do want to have the dirt kind of in a little bit wetter situation like this dirt is today, which is nice, beautiful topsoil. Then what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to add just slightly a little bit more fertilizer, because as you water your potatoes, this fertilizer is going to water down into the soil that we just dumped in. And what's going to happen with that is the roots will pick that up later on. So we want to make sure we kind of have a little bit of fertilizer on the top and a little bit of fertilizer in the root zone where we initially planted the potatoes. Because as we water, that fertilizer is going to work its way down into the root zone, and that's where we want it. And that's how it's done. So I've got 3 potatoes in there. I'm going to pick a special spot for this plant, this tub to be at. We're going to make sure it gets lots of sunlight. If you guys are going to use lights in the school to help with your grow lights, you don't want to overdo it. 8 hours is sufficient. At nighttime, you definitely want to shut them off. That'll be too much light. The plants do like to rest in the nighttime, and so you don't want to overdo it, and you don't want to overwater it either. So initially, when you kind of plant your potato, you want to water it, kind of get the moisture down into where the roots are going to come and grow. That should be sufficient to actually almost get the potato to come out of the ground. Once it's out of the ground, then you want to probably water once or twice a week. Not terribly amount, but enough to kind of keep the plants healthy. Other than that, that's kind of how it goes. You can get the little cages that will help the plant stay up and healthy. Put it in there and the plants will kind of grow through it. That is actually a really good thing to do in this pot, which I will do. It helps the plant kind of come up because the potatoes likes to grow up and then they want to fall down. So you want to kind of you can keep them kind of up and growing through. They're going to get nice and big and bushy, and that's what we're looking for. Throughout the growing season of your potato, once your plant comes up, and everything's growing and it kind of gets, nice size, you do want to add some more fertilizer. Don't want to get too crazy with it, but we definitely want to put a little more fertilizer in there, maybe 1, maybe 2 spoonfuls, and kind of mix it back into the dirt around the plant and then water in again. And that should be sufficient for your plant. Is there any questions?
Okay, I will get the teachers, if you have a question, to type it into the chat. Please keep yourselves on mute. And if your students have questions, put them into the chat, and then I will read them from the chat and ask Ryan. I was sent a few questions beforehand. You did answer a few of these as you went through your presentation, but maybe I'll just get you to go over this quickly again.
Yep.
So how many potatoes can you grow at a time in one tub? And what's the best amount of water to use?
Okay. I kind of have a jug. I'll just grab it real quick here that I use. I'm not sure where the jug went. The watering part, like if you put like probably in a plant, like a tub like this big, when you first do it, I would probably put like a gallon of water, something like that along those lines when you first plant your seed. If you have dry conditions, like the dirt's very dry, I would put probably at least a gallon kind of in the seed zone and wherever to kind of make sure there's enough moisture there to germinate and push those potatoes up. Once they're kind of growing, you probably, in a tub like this, I would say you probably need to be putting like 2 liters every 3 days, every 4 days, maybe something along those lines would be sufficient, I think, to grow properly. That'd be enough moisture. Um, I put 3 potatoes in this pot. That's maybe a little bit aggressive, but if you put the fertilizer and you get good sunlight and whatever, that they will grow. Two is good too. You can do one if you want. It just depends on what you're kind of looking for.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Another question we have is how soon should we plant?
Okay. We typically, like in our farm, we will plant sometime in April. But for you guys and the purpose of what we're doing, I would say you want to start planting soon. Like, let's get them going because we want to see how they grow throughout the school year. So by, sometime in June, hopefully we're harvesting and we can see how these potatoes do.
Okay. Awesome. The next question, and actually quite a few people have asked this, is how many days does it take for a potato to grow?
Okay, it depends. Every potato is going to be little bit different. Different varieties will do different things. So anywhere between 90 to 120 days.
Okay, so then that's a good follow-up into this next question we have, which is do all kinds of potatoes take the same amount of time to grow, or do different types of potatoes take different amounts of time?
Yep. So we have early varieties. So I grow an early variety, which is about a 90-day, 70 to 90-day potato. And that one we will harvest right out of the field. We'll take it into our building, we'll wash them, and we'll send them right directly into the plant for processing. The ones that we put on our storage, they typically take longer. So that's like the 120-day potato where you're kind of planting it, or 150-day potato even. You plant it and then you're harvesting in the fall. So we'll kind of plant end of April and we'll start harvesting the beginning of September. So that kind of gives you how many months of your April, your May, June, July, August. So about 4 months, and then we will start harvesting our potatoes on a farm.
Okay, awesome. So the next question we have here is how tall will the plant get?
That's a good question. Every potato plant's going to be a little bit different. Some will get super, super tall. They can get I've had plants as big as 6 feet on my farm. The vines will get 6 feet long, they'll get as tall as me. So if I grab a vine and I pull it, I can hold it and it'll be as touch the ground. So I'm about 6 feet tall, and that plant, some of them will get that long. These ones, depending on how they go, I'm not really familiar with this particular seed, but they could get, I would say 2 to 3 feet tall if everything went really, really well with good light, good moisture, good fertilizer. All those kinds of things are a factor. So the better you take care of your plant, the better results you're going to have.
Okay, and then to go along with that, how large will the actual potatoes themselves grow?
Okay, well, that's a good question. I have a sample right here of some potatoes that are out of my storage that we're doing some samples on right now. They're just out of my storage that I had from last year. These are potatoes that are in my buildings that we're getting samples on them to make sure they're still frying good and all that. So you see that one's probably almost a softball size, and that one's more like maybe tennis ball size. You get all different sizes of potatoes. It just really depends on how they grow in the field, how they're going to grow in your pot. Last year, my pot, I think it maybe had needed a little bit more TLC. I was pretty busy and I probably should have done a little bit more work on it. I think I had potatoes probably similar to the seed piece, which is just a little bit bigger than a golf ball. But I'm hoping this year, now that I'm experienced with the pot growing, that I'm going to get bigger potatoes.
Okay, so the next question we have is how do you know if your potato plant is getting enough sunlight? Or
That's a very good
maybe how do
question.
you, if it's not getting enough light, what are the signs?
Okay, if a potato plant is not getting everything that you think it needs to be getting, it will show signs. Like you'll see that it'll start to get more of a lighter green color. It'll get droopy. If it gets kind of droopy, like the leaves almost seem like they're kind of drooping, that means you probably don't have enough water. If it gets very light green, it could be lack of sunlight and lack of fertility. That will initiate the plant to start to actually shut down and it'll eventually die. And that's when you're growing potatoes, you actually do want the potato to eventually die because that helps you with your skin set on the outside of the potato for storage and different things. So natural life of potato, it will eventually die on its own just because it wants to mature up and it's got different things in it that to help it store really well.
Okay, and since you mentioned the potato dying, so that's a
Mm-hmm.
question that a few people have asked. How do you know when they're ready to harvest?
Well, if your plant dies and it's completely brown, there's not much left. You usually it takes probably about if you could dig it right away if you want to, but if you want to like store a potato, typically you want to let it sit in the ground for at least 10 days, and 3 weeks is even better. This is my nephew Tyler. He's on the farm with us. I'll introduce him.
Okay. Um, Next question we have. You might have answered this, but I'll ask you again one more time because we've had a
Mm-hmm.
few people ask this. But how many potatoes will come off of
Yep.
one of the seeds?
Okay. Every potato plant is going to be different. On our some of our fields, some certain varieties that we grow, we're looking to get if we get 12 to 15 potatoes is really really good. And then other varieties, which is more like for your chips, like for like Frito Lay, Old Dutch, um, anything you get like a chip out of a bag like that to eat. Typically, we want those to be a little higher. So we're looking if we can get 20 potatoes or 25 potatoes on a plant, that's really really good.
Okay. And then this is another good question that just came into the chat. So, can you explain when, how, and why we need to hill the potatoes, or just generally what hilling
Mm-hmm.
is and how it works and the
Yep.
effect it has on the potatoes?
Absolutely. That's a good question. So what we do, so right now, when I talked about how deep we want the potatoes, 6 inches, 7 inches, you kind of want them down in there. So when we plant, I'm sorry I didn't get to show you the planter. Hopefully later on we'll be able to do that. But when we're planting, we plant the potatoes about 5 to 6 inches deep. Then what we're going to do when we go with a hiller, there's different kinds. There's conventional hilling and there's power. Conventional hiller just kind of pulls the dirt and it kind of pulls the dirt and forms a hill over top of the potato. So when it grows, you get those big potatoes like I just showed you, you get a bunch of them under a hill that's going to expand the hill. And so we're trying to do when we hill, we're putting more dirt on the sides and on top at the time of hilling to prevent the potatoes from coming out of the dirt. It's very key that we don't have the potatoes growing outside of the hill. What happens, they get green on it, and that's not a good potato to have if there's green on it. Those are actually what we call cull potatoes, and we would throw those away at the time of process or shipping or any of those kinds of things. They're no good. But the hill is very, very important. It keeps the potato, keeps the fertilizer, all those things in there. And it also protects your potatoes in the ground. That's the biggest key thing for the hilling.
Awesome. Okay. And then there's a lot of questions coming into the chat, but there have been a few questions for you, Ryan, just about your farm and what you do. So where
Mm-hmm.
do you store your potatoes and where do you, or what do you turn them into? Do they turn into chips? Where do they go if they're
Mm-hmm.
turned into chips? Could you tell us a
Yep.
bit more about that?
Absolutely. So we have multiple storages. They're massive storages, and then a different one I'll show you last year. I kind of did a bit of a tour. We'll try to do that again this year. But they're very big storages where we'll probably put about for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tons of potatoes, which is like a million pounds or 100 million pounds or something like that. It's a lot of potatoes. But they're in there, and we grow for a lot of different things. We grow a little bit of fresh potatoes, so we're like reds and stuff like that that you buy like in a supermarket. We grow russet potatoes, which are typically used for the fry business, which is like your McDonald's French fries, A&W, anywhere you buy a French fry, even in the grocery store, if you want to get a frozen fry, we grow some of those as well. And then we also grow a lot of chip varieties, and they are like for chips. So like a bag of Old Dutch chips or Frito Lay chips or something like that.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the questions there just because we only have so much time. Teachers and students, if you had a question that you didn't get a chance to ask or that didn't get asked, you can send it to me and I will share it with Ryan and we'll try to get you an answer. And hopefully, this gave you a little bit more of an idea of how to grow your potato in your classroom and how Ryan also grows them on the farm. So, thank you, Ryan, for teaching us more about your farm and about potatoes. and we'll be seeing you again in the next Zoom session.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thank you for joining, everybody. Feel free to send me any more questions, and I'll send out everybody the Zoom recording of this after that you can watch again if needed. Bye.
Thanks, guys.